I'm Sadie Guinness, and I'm going to explain what the just happened in the Umbrella Academy Season 2 and where the Netflix drama goes in Season 3. When the Umbrella Academy time traveled to the 1960s after Vanya goes all supervillain, they realize this accidentally causes another doomsday caused by Vanya losing control. Vanya blows up the Dallas Federal Building after the FBI torture her thinking she's a Russian spy. In the chaos of the explosion, JFK doesn't get assassinated, which would have been a big win for Diego, who was super obsessed with trying to save the president's life.
This is why you don't have any friends.
Except for what happened next.
Those are nukes, old-timer.
Blaming the explosion on Russia, JFK declares war, which ends in a nuclear holocaust that wipes out the Umbrella Academy and the entire world. After Diego, of all people, figures this out, he, Allison, and Klaus set out to stop Vanya before Doomsday happens. However, none of them are strong enough to breach Vanya's energy blasts, except Ben, since he's a ghost. Ben makes it to Vanya and joins his spirit with hers, allowing them to communicate inside her mind.
You aren't a monster.
Because Ben is literally the best, he's able to help Vanya regain control and stop hating herself for blowing up the moon and hurting everyone she loves on accident. I don't know why I turn into such a Vanya defender. But in the process, Ben loses the ability to hold on to this world and is finally forced to pass on into the afterlife.
At least this time I get to say goodbye.
But not before getting one last hug in with his sister. While I am devastated over Ben's death, I can only imagine how Klaus feels. Because when the show returns, we are gonna see him like we have never seen Klaus before, completely alone.
Ben is like a habit, I suppose, isn't he? Once you give up smoking abruptly, people tend to replace it with something else, don't they? So I'd imagine there might be some sort of Ben replacement.
While Ben's sacrifice does mean the Academy is successful in stopping the apocalypse, Diego fails in his mission to save JFK, which is probably for the best because every time they mess with the timeline, the world blows up. Literally, just stop f***ing with shit. While you would think that all the stuff about Doomsday and JFK would be the driving force of Season 2, that is not entirely true, because it's only after all of this stuff goes down that we learn the real twists of the season. Throughout the season, we watch Diego fall in love with a woman named Lila.
You're so full of shit.
Who he had met while institutionalized after trying to kill Lee Harvey Oswald. Because, again, he was very obsessed with this JFK thing. But it turns out Lila is actually a super-powered spy sent by her adoptive mother, the Handler, who had survived Hazel shooting her in the head because she conveniently had, a metal plate in there. Apparently, when Five still worked for the Commission, the Handler ordered him to assassinate Lila's parents so that she could adopt Lila and train her, much like Hargreaves did with the Umbrella Academy, except for way more evil. Back in 1963, the Handler is planning to do the same thing to a young boy, Harlan, who Vanya had accidentally given some of her powers to after bringing him back to life. Also, apparently Vanya can, save people now. The Handler, Lila, and a whole team of commissioned assassins attack the Academy at Harlan's mother, Sissy's farm. Vanya is able to take all of the assassins out, but the team is no match for Lila, who not only has superpowers, but she has all of the Umbrella Academy's superpowers. Or maybe her power is that she's a Ditto. That's a Pokemon reference, I'm sorry. Can I reference Pokemon?
No.
Or maybe Lila's powers is that she's a superpowered mimic.
Well, anything that you can do, I can do better.
And can just replicate whoever's powers are closest to her. Lila is easily able to defeat the Umbrella Academy in combat, but she stands down once Diego proposes that she join their family instead of fight it. In the original timeline, this is when the Handler bursts in and shoots everyone, including Lila, but Five is able to time travel back just a few minutes and save everyone's lives. Instead of thanking Five, Lila just steals a briefcase and runs away, going who knows where. And David already had some ideas about how he imagines Diego and Lila's inevitable reunion to play out.
He's gonna want to hug her and try to say, where the hell have you been? But I think he's gonna be more angry at her, because he's still gonna not let her go that easy.
When talking about what he hopes to see in Season 3, David also shared this very interesting wish.
Diego figures out a way to find closure with his father by maybe being a father.
While he didn't specify exactly how Diego might become a father, I cannot stop picturing Diego and Lila trying to raise a family together. It would just be absolute chaos.
You are an open book written for very dumb children.
The introduction of Lila also makes me wonder what happened to the other 35 kids who were born on the same day as the Academy and what powers they might possess. And seeing that battle between Lila and the Umbrella Academy made me really excited for the show to potentially introduce real supervillains next season. This would be fully in line with the third volume of Umbrella Academy comics, Hotel Oblivion. This volume focuses a lot on a transdimensional prison Hargreaves created to house the supervillains the Academy defeats. And when an arrogant billionaire Perseus decides to free all of the prisoners to avenge his supervillain father, they're let loose on the city and it is chaos in the best possible way. But before we can even really talk about what Season 3 might look like, we need to talk about that big cliffhanger. With Vanya's love Sissy deciding it's safer for her and Harlan to stay in the 60s, and Allison's husband Ray choosing to remain as well, the Umbrella Academy is forced to return to the future alone. Only when the Academy arrives in 2019, they realize they didn't just save the world, they created a whole new timeline. You think they're gonna mess around in the 60s and not affect the future?
I knew you'd show up eventually.
And in this timeline, there is no Umbrella Academy. Instead, Hargreaves Mansion is home to the Sparrow Academy, and their members include a very much alive Ben. I was so thrilled. I was so happy when I saw Ben was back. In the original timeline, Ben died 17 years ago fighting alongside his siblings, but in this reality, Ben is alive and apparently the leader of Hargreaves' new team. But beyond this promotion to #1, how does this Ben compare to the one we know and love?
When we constructed him from the ground up, we wanted him to feel completely different, from his clothes to his hair to the scar on his face. He's a badass, he's alive. And just like how everyone else's powers evolved, I'm curious to see if and how Ben's powers will evolve as well.
It doesn't appear as though the Sparrow Academy includes any other alternate members of the Umbrella Academy, since Ben didn't recognize his siblings. This may have actually been by design, because when Hargreaves met his kids from the future in the 60s, he was like,
What would possess me to adopt 7 ill-mannered malcontents?
I would not put it past him to have purposely avoided adopting those kids because he was so disappointed in how they turned out. But one thing is for certain, and that's the fact that the entire Umbrella Academy is both super confused and absolutely terrified of this new team.
Well, my first question is, are they hotter than us? If they're better looking than us...
I mean, I think we're all our pants, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Because we're all very competitive by nature.
Yeah.
So I can't.
It's a group.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be good. Whatever happens in that scenario, I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think we're gonna be sharing margaritas and war stories anytime soon.
So what do we actually know about the Sparrow Academy and what this means for Season 3? The easiest place to look for answers is the comics. In the books, the Sparrow Academy were introduced in Hotel Oblivion, but under very different circumstances. Vanya actually gets recruited to join the Sparrow Academy through her mother Grace, who has seemingly been working with them for a long time. But they also might have a religious motivation because one of their main symbols is a cross. Maybe tired of the way Hargreaves treated her, Grace founded her own superhero team to get some independence. This is something I could definitely see the show's version of Grace doing, both human or robot, especially after that breakup with Hargreaves. Of course, we don't even know if Grace is alive in this new timeline, let alone connected to the Sparrow Academy, but if I had to guess one other person who is involved, it has to be Harlan. Even though Vanya thought she took all of her powers back, Harlan still has her abilities. And the fact that he's keeping them a secret from his mother and has no one around to train him seems like it could go very wrong very fast. Plus, the last time we see Harlan, he is playing with a Sparrow toy, and there is absolutely no way that is a coincidence. But how exactly is Harlan connected to the Sparrow Academy? And did anyone else get super creepy vibes from that final ominous shot? The Umbrella Academy Season 2 left us with a ton of other burning questions. Let's break down some of the biggest ones now. What the hell is Hargreaves up to? I do not understand this man. He is perplexing. That's it, that was the next point. We did learn a lot more about Hargreaves this season, but everything we found out just gave me more questions. For one, we learned that Hargreaves is part of a secret shadow government called the Majestic 12 that orchestrated the plot to kill JFK because he was getting too close to the truth about aliens. And if we're gonna talk about the truth about aliens, what about you, Hargreaves? What are you up to? Where did you come from? And what do you want with humanity? But then it was revealed that Hargreaves didn't actually want JFK dead.
He was not to be touched.
And he rips off his human mask to reveal his alien face and kills all of the other members of the Majestic 12 as revenge for lying to him and trying to blackmail him. Is Hargreaves good? Is he bad? But most importantly, will his kids ever get some closure on their daddy issues?
Is that what you want to hear?
Now that they have this alternate world Hargreaves, or will this just make things so much worse for them?
If anything, I think it's going to throw a spanner in the works for Luthor. I think it will really confuse him. It's also about how much this version of Hargreaves, how much he knows about us, really, because
he doesn't know
he's
anything,
not
right?
actually our dad in this version of 2019. So maybe there won't be any kind of relationship there between them.
Is David still dead in this timeline? Last season, we watched Klaus's heart break when David was killed in the Vietnam War, and this season we watched it shatter when he tried so hard to prevent David from enlisting, but accidentally wound up causing David to enlist sooner. But before David shipped off, Klaus warned him of the exact date and place of his death. Could that have been enough to save David's life? And if so, does that mean Klaus and David might reunite in this new 2019?
Anything could happen, you know? We're in a sort of a parallel world. I mean, Ben's alive. Perhaps, you know, season 2 was young Dave. Perhaps Klaus gets it on with old Dave in season 3.
Is there now an adult alternate version of 5 in 2019? The scene where 5 fought himself was so much fun that you might have missed how serious the consequences of this could be. 5 gave his past self the correct calculations to avoid getting trapped in his teenage body, which means when 5 arrived in 2019, he would have remained his adult self. That means that the 5 we know shouldn't exist in this form, especially because Luther also told past 5 how to prevent the 2019 apocalypse, so they shouldn't have even been able to go to the 60s in the first place. Is 5 now a paradox doppelganger of himself? And what will happen if the two 5s meet again? Aidan has his own theory on how all of this may be explained.
Okay, so the way I worked it out in my head is 5 would never give him the correct math because it would still create a branch timeline. So he falsely gave him the correct math. He still gave him the math that would present him in this younger body. So that now the only difference is 5 has new memories, which I think then would then pop into 5's psyche as soon as he made that change.
I do think Aidan might be onto something because I 100% believe that 5 would lie to his past self to ensure that he exists. Ooh, Aaron, I'm struggling so hard with the time travel in this show. Time travel was a loop in season 1 and now it's linear in season 2 and it's bullshit. How else will this new reality be different? Even outside the Sparrow Academy, I'm sure the new 2019 timeline will feature a ton of other big changes. And I'm hoping a lot of these changes will bring the world of Umbrella Academy more in line with what we saw in the comics. So much of Hotel Oblivion takes place in this pocket dimension prison, and there is even a whole storyline where Luther and Diego take a trip through space. While it's hard to imagine some of the storylines from the comics translating to TV, I do hope they take this opportunity to embrace some of the more outlandish elements of this world. And a little Easter egg referencing Hargreaves' invention of the televator makes me really hopeful that they might be doing just this. Let us know your theories about the Sparrow Academy in the comments below, and please check out more of our What the F videos.